just entered the theater of an alien sky. If the words and images seem strange to you, there's a reason for this. Our world was once a vastly different place. To experience this won't hurt you, and there is nothing to fear. The ancient polar configuration, the most profound influence on early human history. A metamorphosing form in the sky, punctuated by instability, electrical outbursts, and episodic human terror. Our claim has been that the rise of the ancient civilizations themselves occurred in response to these events, under a compulsion to reenact celestial dramas that forever altered humanity's sense of identity. Here was the original source of the mythic archetypes and all of the mysterious symbols and magical rites passed down from generation to generation for thousands of years. The subject of this investigation does not allow for selective perception. Rather, it draws upon the totality of human experience through the myth-making epoch, an explosion of storytelling, inexplicable images carved on stone, and monumental construction, all declaring that towering gods formerly ruled the sky, though only for a time, before they departed. And so we've called this historical narrative the one story told around the world. The story assures us that within human memory the sky changed radically, and thereby every critical turn in the story becomes an invitation to hear the ancient witnesses, look past the regional novelties, observe the human experience and its connection to the natural events that provoked all of the underlying patterns, the archetypes. But how could we draw reliable conclusions from transparently unreliable witnesses? The question is clear enough, but finding the answer requires that we follow ancient testimony back to its global convergence on critical details, even when those details seem too preposterous to believe. This simple requirement, fundamental to all reliable detective work, assures us that the archetypes could not be accidental or random. In unison, the archetypes express the coherent substructure of an extraordinary ancient experience. Of course, no single archetype on its own, even if hiding in plain sight, could give you reasons to believe a story. The truth is that virtually all archetypes are too preposterous to believe. Chaos monsters attacking the world, dying gods, heroes consorting with legendary goddesses, and mountains, towers, and stairways to heaven. And yet, for an investigator of this mystery, it is the preposterous details coming down to us as a cross-cultural consensus that offer a new understanding, with no room for compromise on fundamental ground rules. As the archetypes are brought to light, just two questions must be asked. Would this archetype be expected under the influence of things in our sky today? And would this archetype be expected under the ancient experience of the polar configuration? By posing just two questions, it becomes clear that the underlying integrity of the archetypes could not be accidental. The archetypes can be counted by the hundreds, and each stands in a predictable relationship to a universal substructure or cross-cultural agreement. And that is our advantage, specificity, with no ambiguity as to the answers anciently given. There is a full explanation for all of the mythic archetypes, but that explanation lies in planetary formations once visible to humans the world over. Planets close to Earth, embedded in spectacular plasma formations between these gathered bodies and animated by electric discharge. I've called these the acid tests because they don't allow us to simply invent explanations. In prior episodes of this series, we've alluded to many story elements in our reconstruction. an ancient sun god, the exemplary ruler of the sky before the present sun, a primeval sun, central sun, motionless sun, polar sun, all named in the early astronomical traditions as a planet, Saturn, celebrated as the original creator and king of the world, the mythic founder of the kingship rights. Saturn in a preposterous location at the celestial pole. Saturn bringing to humankind the legendary Golden Age. And so too the ancient memory of Saturn displaced or overthrown in an episode of world-altering catastrophe or cast down to the opposite end of the world axis. Don't believe in coincidence. The underlying integrity of this story could not be accidental. Of course, the story of Saturn is just the opening chapter. It's the totality of the ancient planetary connections that will drive the message home. That includes the vast range of images attached to the planet Venus. What natural experience could have inspired the global archetype of Venus as Mother Goddess? Why the mysterious identity of the goddess as animating eye, heart, or soul of the primeval sun? And what was meant by the goddess's departure from that elevated position, or the so-called terrible aspect of the goddess that followed? Such questions are only the beginning. What of the planet Mars, so often said to have been born from the womb of the goddess, then earning a reputation as the pillar of the sky, and still later emerging as the cosmic warrior, even the divine weapon of the gods, the cosmic thunderbolt? Again, ask yourself whether any standard approaches to human history or to the origins of ancient thought has ever produced a compelling explanation for a single archetype, just one archetype amongst the hundreds that have now been identified. Under today's theoretical assumptions, a global accord would be inconceivable. But our objective in this series is to demonstrate the direct relationship of every archetype to the emergence and evolution of the polar configuration. No ambiguities and no rationalizations required. Though first impressions may see only a collection of random absurdities, the widespread patterns are not random. And the proof of this lies in hundreds of archetypes all lining up coherently to present a unified story under the most stringent demands of three-dimensional perspective. At each stage in the metamorphosis of the configuration, the changes in the relative positions of the interacting bodies require highly specific changes in appearance. In such acid tests, it is the demands of logical consistency and three-dimensional perspective that must guide us at each stage. And with this guidance, we can be confident that rational ground rules for assessing human testimony can direct us to definitive conclusions.